berkenaan dengan waste management, waste water treatment, chemical engineering dan sebagainya. Beliau juga telah mempunyai strong collaboration dengan agensi-agensi kerajaan, private dan juga agensi antarabangsa seperti Department of Environment Malaysia, JS ni, Jabatan Alam Sekitar Malaysia, Suruhanjaya Perkhidmatan Air Negara, SPAN, Tenaga Nasional Berhad dan institusi akademik seperti contohnya Universiti Melaya, Universiti Kebangsaan Malaysia, Universiti Teknologi MARA, UiTM, UIA, UTN dan sebagainya. Dan specialties beliau expert dalam ESG, Environment Social Governance, GHG, Hydrogen Membrane Filtration, Environment Management, Sustainable Development, Green Engineering, Palm Oil Mill Effluent dan sebagainya. Banyak perkara juga. Okey, so untuk tidak melengahkan masa, saya ingin menjemput TS Raja Shazrin Shah untuk menyampaikan untuk kita punya sharing pada malam ini. Dipersilakan.
Okay, Assalamualaikum, selamat malam. Terima kasih Dr. Sarizam untuk pengenalan sedikit, tak sedikit banyak perkenalan saya. So thank you everyone for coming tonight. I know it's a Saturday night and this will be a sharing, not so in depth, but rather macam hubung kait lah di mana jurutera-jurutera boleh berkhidmat atau memberi sumbangan dalam aspek ESG, something satu topik yang hangat diperbincangkan sekarang. So saya akan share screen. I will be I will be presenting in English, and I will be presenting in English, and it will be sharing session lah. Sekejap saya nak share screen ni, dia macam lagi sikit. Alright. Okay, boleh nampak Okay, so tonight we'll be talking about ESG, just a rough introduction, and where and how engineers will matter lah. And I've also shared a little bit of information about how I can be reached. It's basically to LinkedIn, a platform which I'm quite active in lately, not just to communicate with stakeholders and friends out there, but also to share information about my work and some interesting articles that I find occasionally about ESG and sustainability lah in general. Okay, so today we'll be talking about a little bit about sustainability, a little bit about ESG, because in this topic, most of the time when we are delivering talks and communicating about ESG, the challenge is always establishing the background information that is required for us to ensure that, to make sure that the receiving end understands what we're talking about, and for everyone to be on the same page. So I will start with giving a very brief background about sustainability, particularly talking about sustainability in Malaysia lah, where we'll be talking about a little bit about climate change and carbon neutral, the buzzword now. Then a little bit about Malaysia's roadmap towards achieving carbon neutrality or being carbon neutral. Following that, a little bit of a compilation of sustainability trends in Malaysia. This is some little bits and pieces of information that I have compiled from here and there. Then finally about sustainability and ESG lah. Following that, I will be talking a little bit of background about ESG, and then relating that to where engineers can contribute. Okay, so on the bottom right hand corner is actually a news that came out yesterday, that Bursa Malaysia has launched the first carbon exchange, BCX dipanggil. It's called BCX. So this is indeed a significant move in the country, where it was announced a year back that Malaysia is looking into the VCM market, a voluntary carbon market, and right now Bursa Malaysia has launched it, and it says that we are going to expect some action, or rather it'll be on the ground fully March 2023. So interesting times indeed coming up ahead that we can expect. Now going into the top, when we talk about sustainability, we cannot run from having to explain or having to relate to climate change and carbon neutral lah. Oh, apologies for the typo there, natural, it's neutral, carbon neutral. So where this is coming from an engineering standpoint, we always relate back, not just engineering actually, from the anthropogenic standpoint, like the human activity standpoint. It all begins with the industrialization, where we saw a phenomenal increase in industrial activities, which involves a lot of extraction of natural resources from the earth. And this very much relates to fossil fuels. When we learned how to harness the energy coming from fossil fuels, this is when we saw a significant increase in greenhouse gases going into the atmosphere. And that in turn created the greenhouse effect, which not limited to, but caused global warming. And this is what the general public and everyone is referring to as climate change lah, atau perubahan iklim. And that really is the global threat that everyone, the global community is trying to mitigate and trying to set efforts towards not allowing that to happen. So we're talking horizons of 2030 and 2050 when you're talking about achieving sustainability and carbon neutrality. There are many efforts there, but by far what I've listed on the slide is not an exhaustive list. But some of the more prominent efforts that we are seeing right now in relation to ESG, not limited to engineering fields, is target. We are seeing organizations, not just in Malaysia, but all over the world, setting global targets towards achieving carbon neutrality. And through ESG and other means, other platforms, we are seeing more and more organizations disclosing emissions through reporting. This is not limited to sustainability reporting. Some organizations are also reporting through, following the ISO standards and also the GHG protocol standards. We are seeing more and more encouragement for industries to reduce emissions based on global targets, and this is just not coming through the legal framework where governments and authorities are encouraging industries to reduce emissions. We're also getting some pressure from the general public, where the global community is becoming more and more conscious about impacts of consumption towards the environment. So reduction of emissions is becoming something that is more and more demanded by the industries to comply. Then, of course, when we're going towards carbon neutrality, I think this is something that all us engineers can appreciate, is electrification. We are seeing electrification being integrated into many aspects of industrial activities right now. Something that is easy for us to relate with is the transportation sectors. As we can see, a lot of vehicles are going, EV, not just personal private vehicles, but we are looking at larger transportation vehicles going EV. Buses, commercial trucks and lorries are going EV as well. I think it won't be very long before we see the aviation industry going electric, maybe. But yeah, still good times to come, I suppose. Then, of course, we are also seeing a phenomenal increase in the deployment or inclusion of renewable energy into the fuel mix in Malaysia. For example, we're seeing a lot of energy coming from the solar and also biogas. Of course, we've had a good share coming also from hydro, and all these are renewable energy. Then, of course, something that we were talking about just now from the Bursa is the offset lah. Within the sustainability community, offset is the last that we would be talking about, because the main objective is always, or rather the best option is always to go mitigate or even reduce or even eliminate the emissions altogether. But yeah, I suppose as we're all aware, change is not easy and very rarely comes abruptly. So offsets is something that is seen to be an approach that we can adopt to cushion the change towards decarbonization. All right. So that's a very brief and all over the place. Sorry, all over the place information about climate change and carbon neutrality. So when we talk about Malaysia, Malaysia is actually not very much behind, being a developing country when it comes to stewardship towards achieving sustainability and carbon neutrality. For example, we've been seeing elements of sustainability in the Malaysian plan way back, but these are excerpts of what I can find in the 12th Malaysian Plan, Rancangan Malaysia ke-12, where we saw a commitment to reduce emissions, GHG emissions by 45% by the year 2030. And this is very much in line with what you will find in the global emissions of emissions reductions, where it is expected for us to reduce emissions by half actually to 2030 by 2030, and then following that achieving net zero or net neutral by 2050. A lot of people are using so many words now. You will see net neutral, you will see carbon neutral, you will see net zero. But basically, at a not very technical level, I would say it's interchangeable, and it means the same thing lah, roughly, right? There are a little differences, but for the general non-practitioner, right? For the general technical community, I would say it's always the gearing up towards reducing mitigation of emissions, tapering down all the way to zero lah. So that's what it is talking about. Then of course you see the commitment of no development of new coal-fired power plants. So we are also seeing even in the newspapers, I believe Star newspaper a couple of months back, where TMB has drawn out their 2050 net zero roadmap, where you will see a lot of the coal-fired power plants being decommissioned between now and 2050. So that's happening. Then the private sector will be encouraged. In fact, some sectors will be compulsory. It will be made compulsory to declare emission reductions and also their efforts towards emission reduction. We are seeing organizations, government-related organizations like the Department of Environment and MGTC in various aspects encouraging or rather pushing the industries to declare their emissions and also disclose their emission reduction efforts. Then we were talking about the BCX, Bursa Carbon Exchange Market. This is actually very much related to what you will find or what you will be talking about in terms of carbon pricing and carbon tax in the near future. This is coming up. We are also seeing large organizations disclosing their Scope 3 emissions and coming up with frameworks and strategies towards reducing Scope 3 emissions. We're also looking at organizations coming up with carbon storage and carbon capture. And I do suspect that after BCX is on the ground, March 2023, where people can actually trade carbon credits, carbon storage and capture will flourish in Malaysia, I suppose, not just from local technology, but I do foresee international organizations coming to set up shop here to steal, or rather to secure their piece of the cake for the carbon carbon exchange market. Then of course, very much related, the quality offsets lah. So when the offset credits are being traded and being purchased, we hope that this will be quality offsets. Even now, a version of offset is being seen in Malaysia. If you notice, TNB, Tenaga Nasional Berhad, is offering the green energy or the offset energy, where organizations can actually buy or rather choose to pay for the green energy block, and they are using this to offset their emissions, right? So, but I was made to understand that the quantity or rather the overall quota is very much limited. Okay, that's happening. Next slide. All right. So yeah, the other thing that we need to probably talk about is the COP26 and COP27, the COP conference, where in COP26, Malaysia committed actually to set national global warming to below 1.5 degrees, and this is very much in line with the Paris Agreement, where we are targeting to achieve the net zero emissions target. Then in COP27, which is just a couple of weeks back, we were talking about mitigation actions, where this is very much related to the transition in the energy sector, because we know a big chunk of the emissions, not just in Malaysia, actually everywhere in the world, it is actually coming from the energy sector, and it is very much impossible to achieve without looking at the energy sector transition. Then under the national energy policy, Malaysia has set also to increase the renewable energy capacity, the renewable energy capacity mix, increasing to up to 40% by 2035. And of course, not forgetting the global methane pledge, where we have committed actually to achieve 50% methane emission reduction by 2030, right? So that's what's happening on the ground in terms of pledging and then drawing the roadmap towards net zero by 2030, by 2050, sorry. Okay, so what's happening in Malaysia, right? So this is not very much different, I would say, to compare with what's happening globally. One, when you talk about sustainability, is the push for transparency. This is very much apparent by the demand of or the increasing requirement of organizations to disclose their ESG report, or rather their sustainability reporting, where you can see ESG adoption is very much related to how do you say, going beyond certification, where people are going into the analytics of things, and people are talking about granularity of product, of information, granularity of data. Apa tu orang cakap pasal data that can be verified, and this goes beyond certification. In the past, we have seen a lot of organizations going for ISO 14001, for example, certification, just to show stewardship and to show leadership of the organization in terms of taking care of the environment, or going towards sustainability, adopting sustainability through greenhouse gas mitigation and quantification. But the trend is that they're going beyond that to push for transparency, where the ESG reports or sustainability reports are being consumed by ranking institutions like Sustainalytics and MSCI, and this in turn actually puts an impact on share prices, asset prices for organizations. So that's what's happening. Then, of course, we do see ESG investments is on the rise. When you talk about in Malaysia, you see the FTSE for Good, for example, FTSE for Good Russell. Then there's the green, I can't remember the name, but there are a few funds that either solely look into ESG or put a big chunk of their evaluation coming from ESG scores. So that's happening. Then of course, from that, we see investors moving to the forefront of the sustainability conversation, where sustainability is being given a formal, orang kata dapat markah, a formal weightage in terms of evaluation of assets. Then you see many businesses, and not limited to public listed companies now, even SMEs are going towards emission reporting due to criticism or even, how do you say, impacts that are more than just criticisms. In fact, if we recall recently the problem that was faced by Top Glove, not being able to push their products, and this was very much related to ESG, right? Of course, the discussions of net zero commitment. This is also a trend that is upcoming and increasing day by day. In fact, if we look at the well-established platforms as Science-Based Target Initiative, we see more and more Malaysian companies pledging their targets on SBTI. Of course, there's also a greater pushback against greenwashing. This is happening globally, where the risk involved with greenwashing, the liabilities involved with greenwashing is becoming more and more. We see this as an example where billions of dollars was lost by Facebook due to the information leak, the information security, and this is again very much related to ESG. Businesses starts to look into carbon offsetting after they have done their mitigation and emissions reductions strategy. And of course, last but not least, this is also not an exhaustive list. You see sustainability is fast becoming the boardroom priority, at the top level. In fact, if you go on LinkedIn or JobStreet, you see every day, positions being offered, the chief sustainable officer, head of sustainability, and similar positions being offered by medium-sized organizations and to the giant-sized organizations. So this is what's happening in Malaysia, and I think it is very much what's happening in the global arena as well. I would also like to take some time to explain actually what is the relation between some of the terms that we always hear. We always hear ESG right now, then we also always hear, we've heard before CSR, and we've also heard people talking about SDGs. So basically all of this is a target, kind of a strategy or kind of an effort for organizations or for the global community to achieve sustainability. So if we read this diagram from right to left, sustainability is the end game, the option that everyone wants to achieve. And this is mapped out by SDG. The 17 elements, the 17 sustainable development goals basically give you an idea or a map or some sort of what do you call it, framework for you to achieve the ultimate goal of sustainability. And this is seen, or rather transitioned, by the impact towards the society and also the environment, right? So how you impact the society and environment is through CSR, to get those positive impacts to the society and the environment. That's CSR. So efforts of CSR, at the point the efforts to achieve, is done by businesses. So businesses through CSR can give or can make positive impact towards the environment and the society. So that's CSR and SDG. And why businesses are doing this are due to a couple of drivers that we see. So ESG is actually a driver that pushed businesses to impact the society and the environment. And this is done by the drivers are coming from the investors and the government, through regulations and through policies. And this actually is a tool for investors to use for investment evaluation. So ESG is the means for that. Then, of course, consumption behavior, you get drivers and push, very, very significant push actually from consumers community and the society, where they very much expect businesses to conduct business in an ethical manner lah. So this is roughly, you can say, socially, businesses being ethical by being socially and environmentally responsible. Okay. Okay. All right. So where did ESG come about actually in 2020? Suddenly everyone was talking about ESG. So in the 1980s, it all started actually from HSE, right? From health, safety and environment. Not to say before that it wasn't there, but that was basically the time that it was very much established and going into the mainstream through regulations and a more structured kind of approach. And this can be seen by the developments of environmental regulations and employee rights, safety, and the like. So that's in the 1980s. In the 1990s, the talk about sustainability started to gain some momentum, where the prioritization of environmental impact and organizations and the global community even is going beyond legal requirements. So this was when the targets changed a little bit, and in the year 2000, over the in the turn of the millennium, you see a lot of organizations conducting corporate social responsibility. At this time, I would say that it wasn't really structured as you would find now in ESG, but a lot of efforts were going into corporate philanthropy. It became like a trend, and you see a lot of employee volunteerism to coordinate social issues. This was when I like to say, corporates are going to the beach and throwing mud balls into the ocean, but without much mapping towards how much and what objective those activities were going into. Then 2019, 2020, you see the birth of ESG, where it's actually coined as a holistic concept related to competitive advantage and actually risk and reward management. So that's how ESG came about roughly. And what is it really? So what is ESG? So ESG has three pillars, which gave it its name actually. So E is environment, S is social, and G is governance. So ESG has three pillars: environmental, social, and governance. So the environmental part is actually what it means is that it's actually a demonstration of an organization's stewardship towards the environment, right? Towards mitigating and managing environmental related risks, right? And this can be seen, this one related to engineering, not an exhaustive list, but I've just picked out some that are related to the engineering sector. Companies' use of renewable energy sources. So this may be related to the implementation of renewable energy as a way to decarbonize the organization's activities. Then, of course, we have waste management programs, management of air or water pollution as a result of the organization's activities. We have very, very famous climate mitigation action. In fact, I read an article that mentioned when we're talking about sustainable development goals, the SDG 13, which is the climate action, that this is one of the most popular SDG. Then, of course, environmental risk, or rather the organization's stewardship towards environmental risk. For example, a company may face environmental risk due to ownership of contaminated land, and these are really significant liability to the company, in terms of fines and litigation costs. And oil spills, for example, management of toxic emissions, disposal of hazardous waste, and of course, compliance with the government's environmental regulation. Even though our Environmental Quality Act right now doesn't really cover GHG emissions, but we see a lot of organizations going beyond that towards towards ESG, right? So the next pillar is the social pillar, which is actually not to say it's not very much related. It is also indirectly related to the engineering sector. But this actually covers supply chain management and privacy and data protection, pay equity, racial justice, workplace and board diversity, wage and benefits, and of course, labor standards. When you talk about supply chain management, this also includes equity, actually, and it also includes parts like uh, how do you say, um, anti-corruption and things like that. All right, so I won't cover much about social because we are engineers. Then of course, the last pillar, which is the governance, and this looks into the organization's stewardship, or rather leadership towards the corporate and board composition and structure. Again, can be related to equity here. Then strategic sustainability oversight and compliance. This is to also the word oversight is very heavily used when we talk about ESG for corporate organizations, where it's almost demanded that ESG being given board oversight to show the seriousness of an organization in terms of wanting to achieve sustainability. Then mitigation of conflicts and interest, shareholder engagement and transparency. So that's on the governance pillar. Okay, so why ESG? So we've talked about the relationship between ESG, SDG, and CSR. But why are we demanding, or why is everyone talking about having ESG in their organization? Of course, we spoke about organizations moving beyond compliance through ESG. That's basically the bottom line. But this is also actually an effort to for the organization to adapt and thrive on current demand. And when we're talking about ESG, we always talk about risk management. And one of the risks that needs to be managed is the transition risk, which actually involves the company to the organization actually to look and evaluate on the resilience of the organization towards transition risk, which also includes changes in supply, access to supply of raw materials, for example, and also their ability to operate in the background of new acts and new regulations coming up to cater for climate change. Okay, so why ESG? Corporate reputation. This very much also relates to a company's ability to operate in the future, related to their license to operate, and ESG will enhance the license to operate. Risk reduction, of course, through the ESG or through the preparation of sustainability reports. Organizations will be able to identify and hence mitigate intermediate and long-term risks. And this is just not just limited to material risk. It also includes the transitional risk. Opportunity management through the engagement, and normally in the early part of ESG, the team will be able to will be required to do the materiality analysis. And this is where many times accidentally or indirectly, organizations will be able to actually uncover new market from the unmet needs of certain stakeholders. Then, of course, culture and intrinsic value, where ESG maturity, there's a word, ESG maturity. Maturity is looked at a measure of ESG quality, where because a lot of studies have proven that high performing organizations and work and purpose-driven workforce is very much related or can be correlated to ESG maturity. All right, so that's basically what ESG is. So how does that relate to engineers? Where do engineers actually matter? So this is actually a pull out of a very simplified pull out of what you may find when a company goes through an ESG process. So one, of course, to define purpose and scope. Then comes the phase where you identify potential topics. Topics is actually issues that you identify within the three pillars of ESG. You have environmental related topics, social and governance related topics. So this is the first part where engineers matter actually. I will cover that in the next slide. Then, of course, you categorize the topics. Then you gather information about the impact and importance of the topic. Again, phase 4 is the very important part where engineers can play I would say a significant role. Then following that, you go to phase 8, where an assessment is required. Again, this is where engineers matter. Following that is the target setting, and finally implementation of those targets. As you can see, a significant amount, I would say maybe half of the time, you need engineers to be involved in the implementation of ESG within an organization. So ESG, it has become an expectation amongst not only public listed companies, but also middle market firms. This is a requirement for the companies to be able to differentiate themselves further in ESG reporting and also innovation. Because of the word innovation, innovation drives ESG progress and it enables organizations to achieve ESG goals. And because of this, engineers are uniquely positioned to drive innovation for their organization or their client's organization in order to, to make organizations more ready to adopt ESG practical practices, not just from a technical, but also operational and executive level. Right. So roles of engineers specifically, this is not, again, not an exhaustive list, but one of the, my personal opinion, important aspects where engineers can play a part. One, I see digital transformation to simplify ESG reporting. Again, two keywords there. One is the digital transformation, and then another one, ESG reporting. These are two of the, I would say, prominent challenges in the ESG game. When a company is, when an organization is going towards ESG disclosures, the first is always about data, and digital transformation is key to managing data efficiently. And then, of course, engineering, design, and clean technology. This is where engineers also, again, play a primary role in leading and also executing engineering, design, and clean technology. And then finally, procurement, data management. Again, data is the key word there. So when we talk about digital transformation, again, not just to simplify ESG reporting, the implementation of digitalization through implementation of the single source of truth model, and then, of course, integration with cloud computing platforms, and then generating a single data-centric system. So this is all important aspects of managing data more efficiently. And when in the past, my past experience when dealing with ESG disclosures, this is by far the most challenging part, right? To acquire the data and also to manage the data in an efficient way. And I feel that this is where engineers come in, where the digital outlook will provide an indication of how every element within an organization is trending, meaning it will allow for us to go deep into what each of those data actually means. It would allow for a proper modeling to be possible, and integration with artificial intelligence for you to conduct optimization in a more efficient manner. Then, of course, maximizing work efficiency by providing wireless mobility. This is something that you see now, through the wireless technology, through Bluetooth technology, through infrared, where it very much makes the data collection more simple and more reliable. Of course, serves also as the foundation for ongoing changes and maintenance. So this is the impact of digital transformation on ESG reporting. Then, of course, engineering, design, and clean technology. Again, not an exhaustive list, but we are talking about circular economy models, and when you talk about not just limited to production processes, engineers are very much play a critical role when coming up with circular economy models. Then, of course, product differentiation, product development, environmental impact studies of various routes of process, and also frameworks, and of course, resource efficiency. So this is actually the elements going into sustainable design, and very much, I would say, the bread and butter of what engineers do in their day-to-day work. Okay, then emerging clean technology, which relates to environmental management system, both new, existing, and classical. Then, of course, there's the void analysis tool for us to be able to systematically identify gaps. Impact reporting softwares. This is where we see an integration of data management, modeling, and optimization studies come into place. Statistical analysis comes into place. So all of these are very much, the main contribution that engineers can play in terms of ESG or contributing towards sustainability within an organization. Again, the last part that I mentioned earlier on is data. So when we talk about ESG, basically at the heart of it is actually data. So the first part is gathering data, collecting data, then assessing, organizing those data. So this involves modeling, statistical analysis. Gathering data is very much technical in terms of, the how do you say, the representativeness of those data, which relates to how. Okay, so when we talk about engineering, like for example, data involving energy consumption and things like that. So that very much requires technical know-how in that sense. Then, of course, assessing and maintaining all the data, and this involves big data. Actually, I'm not an expert in big data, but it fits all the criteria. You have variable data, you have large amount of data, you have sensitive data, and engineers will actually really play an important role, can play an important role towards making the process more feasible. Right, then of course, effective data management using the right technology is where engineers can also contribute, and this will equip professional business leaders and other users with information for them to be able to do a strategic planning and decision making. I think it's quite common actually right now, that because people more and more are realizing this, and if you see, you don't have to go very deep technical, because you see positions opening up in LinkedIn and JobStreet for chief sustainable officers and head of sustainability. The requirement is unsurprisingly a degree or a postgraduate degree in engineering. Okay, then of course data is seen as an asset. I think this one is something that we engineers understand very much by now. Because this is very much important for us to make informed business decisions, for us to conduct optimization and operations, to reduce costs and increase profits. Okay. think I'm coming to the end right now. So just as a recap or rather a summary of where engineers can come in, you know, so data collection, this is an important part of ESG where engineers can or does play a primary or a very important role to manage and draw out a proper data collection and management. And this can be done through digitalization, right? And not just for the data, but all the way to the reporting part. Then in the stakeholders engagement, materiality assessment, all the way to the target setting, engineers are critical to provide views and insights, you know, technological and technical views and insights. Of course, in identifying issues which are material towards the organization, this also involves engineers as well in terms of identifying and evaluating risks. Then in the final parts of ESG, to provide suggestions and ideas for improvements and optimizing processes, emissions reduction, and of course, risk assessment. So maybe that can be summed in three keywords, I would say. One, we can be looking into digitalization, or rather how we can digitalize the process within ESG. Another one is automation towards collecting and managing data for ESG. And then the other one, which is the most important, and it goes beyond just reporting ESG, is actually coming up with a feasible and manageable and realistic actionable mitigation actions. All right. So in about 40 minutes, I think that's as much as I can cover, you know, with a little bit of background information on what ESG is and where engineers play an important role and in ESG. And I think we can take it up in the question and answer session. Just also to share a little bit, I recently got involved in an NGO, which is pushing the ESG agenda, not just going beyond public listed companies. Normally, public listed companies are quite well established, and they have the means and resources to engage multinational companies to advise on getting on board in terms of ESG. But I got involved with MAPAN, Malaysia Association of Public Advocacy for Nature, which actually looks into you know, assisting SMEs, micro and small medium enterprises in adopting ESG. So for anyone interested, the link is there. And I think I don't know, I've been all over the place in the last 40 minutes, so I hope all of you can pick up. But otherwise, feel free to ask questions. I will do my best to address them here. Thank you. Back to you, Dr. Zarizam.
Okay. Thank you very much, T.S. Raja Sharin. Thank you very much for that very interesting presentation. Then, actually, there is one question from T.S. Muhammad Zulhazrin, Muhammad Nasir, I think. Did ESG goals related with continuous improvement activities? Because currently, he as a CI engineer already involved in CI sustainability project in his company. Thanks. Yeah, Raja Sharing.
Okay, so thank you for the question. So actually, if we talk about the impact of the rating, because there are many organizations that do rating. For example, I spoke about Sustainalytics and the S&P, for example. Then you have also MSCI, right? So there are different skills and different methods that this company use to rank or to give ratings for your organization. But most of the time, continuous improvement directly I will say it cannot be quantified directly to how much it will go into improving your organization's ranking. However, it is important that those continuous improvement be able to, you are able to actually in the SR, your ESG team or your consultant will be able to advise you better. But it is important for you to be able to relate those continuous improvement to actually which transition risk or which material risk in relation to sustainability or climate change that you are addressing. So that's important. That will make it easier for those organizations to actually integrate those continuous improvement activities into the evaluation of your organization's ranking, right? So that's very important because your disclosures are really they will not ask you. I think you're aware of this. Those ranking organizations, they don't engage the organizations for clarification. So it is very important that this mapping be made clear, right? Okay, I hope that answers the question.
Okay, thank you very much. Is there any question from our participant tonight?
Not much question. Di tengah malam ni challenging sikit, 9 o'clock, right? People are already slowing down, ya, Doktor.
Tapi itulah dia for me quite maybe because of I'm not in this field, so quite difficult for me to digest everything.
I blame it on the timing, Doktor. Tengah malam. Well, basically, in the engineering, I think it's everyone is involved actually, because when I first started out in sustainability in ESG, I thought it's very much related to chemical engineering, where we actually go on the ground looking into coming out with frameworks and technology to reduce environmental impacts. But it actually involves all the engineering disciplines, because you have data management, you have modeling, you have now artificial intelligence. So all those technical know-how is very much crucial, in coming up with an informed decisions. Because right now tak cukup kita congak atas kertas je, because there's so many aspects of it. You require this kind of systematic and systematic and orang panggil apa, statistical approach for you to be able to have a multi-dimensional kind of analysis on what should be done, to achieve your objective. Dia tak ada satu ke satu dah sekarang, dia jadi many to many now. So yeah, I think that's where engineers play an important role lah, because when I started talking in that sense of okay, then the others are like, okay, so this is where it is important. It's not just about data collection and data management. It is also about the analytics of those data.
Okay, yes, Raja Syahrin. Kita pun dah hampir jam 10. Maybe this will be the last question from IR Rizwan. Is there any research or technology updates related to ESG in Malaysia?
Okay, so research definitely. Maybe if you go in the academic field, if you go into the academic field to search for articles or even information about ESG, maybe it doesn't come out in terms of ESG sebiji-sebiji. And sometimes you look into other keywords as well. For example, sustainability. Sometimes it comes out in terms of decarbonization. Right now, it also comes out in terms of circular economy. And this research is not limited to the engineering, because sometimes it becomes multidisciplinary. Because very much, I think by this time, we are able to appreciate that because of the E and the S and the G, it becomes really a cross-cutting kind of requirement. So it involves technology, it involves social, it involves economy. So yes, just to answer your question, is there any research? There are many research. And when you talk about not research, just research. When you talk about technology, there's so many technologies involved in terms of data collection, in terms of data management, in terms of data analytics. So all these are very much on the ground right now. In fact, myself, I'm involved in developing a platform for measuring GHG emissions, and that will be integrated with artificial intelligence and orang panggil apa not my field lah, tapi orang panggil apa, deep machine learning, for this platform to be able to give informed decisions on how and what to do in terms of mitigating emissions. So that one's in the pipeline. I hope something will come of it in the near future.
Okay. Okay. Thank you very much. Ada soalan lagi tak?
Ada soalan.
Any other question? Kita ada masa lagi 2 minit. Because dalam talian kita sekarang ni kita ada dekat Facebook saya tak pasti. Kalau dekat Zoom ni at least we have around 25 I think.
Okay.
So any other question?
Okay, there's a request on the chat I see for slides. I would try to upload the slides to Facebook. Can we do that?
I'm not sure, but I think maybe Rizman can help for that.
I think we can share lah. I will share the slides with MAE, and I think if you fill in the borang kehadiran, you have your email there, right? I don't know. Borang kehadiran email.
Yeah, we have borang kehadiran actually. And then one thing, I hope that all of our participants tonight can fill up the borang kehadiran attendance form. One thing is at least we can have as our record. Then there will be mail address actually, Raja Shahrin.
Okay.
Shahrin. So maybe we can, if we can send all of our to all our participants, then it will be very helpful.
Thank you very much. I will do that. No problem.
Okay, maybe kita dah sampai ke masa yang kita janjikan, dah 10 lebih. So kata-kata terakhir daripada TS Raja Sharing.
Okay, so I think if I had something to say, thank you very much for your attention. Kerana meluangkan masa 1 jam dengan saya di malam Sabtu. So can you keep doing other things with your family and right? Thank you very much. And I think for us engineers, for those engineers out there, we very much play an important role in ESG and in sustainability. So I do hope that this actually gives us an opportunity for us to advance in our career. Thank you very much.
Okay, terima kasih. Dan once again kepada semua partisipan kita pada malam ni, saya ucapkan ribuan terima kasih untuk sama-sama menyertai kita punya program, dan insyaAllah next program kita akan menyusun, dan kita mengharapkan agar masing-masing daripada kita dapat sama-sama sertai, dan yalah, dia ni sharing session dan sama-sama kita dapat tambah ilmu, tambah pengalaman berdasarkan kepada pengalaman rakan-rakan kita. Okey, sekian. Terima kasih. Wabillahi taufiq wal hidayah. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Assalamualaikum.
Salam.
Terima kasih, Raja.
Sama.
Terima kasih.